Welcome once again to this Sigma module, and in this module we are going to talk about the preparation and the cleaning part of it. So welcome to Power Queries ETL capabilities. So in the last module we have seen how do we connect with this data. Now what we are going to do is we are going to see further action into this particular data. So now without wasting any further time, the first thing that we are going to do is to go to Home menu, and then we find ourselves into the lap of transformation and into the new and bigger world of what we call it as Power Query. So we can see that all the 6 data sets, be it orders or customers or be it products, so all of them are available over here in one place, one location. Now, what happens when you just start with this data set? The first thing, people ask that, okay, how are you getting this valid, error, empty and all these things? I just point them to this option which says view, and then we have something called column quality. So you can see the column quality, and then you can see the column distribution. So these are the things. And then we have something called column profile as well, which is very important. So I'll just give you an example of column profile. So let's take an example that we have got one option which is, let's say, products. There is a table called products, and look at this very interesting feature. So if I say, let's say, what is the unit price of this particular data, and if I click on unit price, I can see the value distribution of unit price. So which means that I can see that there are 77 products, as you can see over here, and the minimum value of a product is 2.5 and the maximum value is 263.5. The average price of a product, unit price, is around 28, and the standard deviation from 28 is actually to 33. So that's the standard deviation. So without even going further into any kind of analytics, I am able to see the data, the distribution, the quality of this entire data set. Immediately what we are going to do is we are going to first of all clean the data. That's the task that we have in this particular segment. So we are actually into the data mining, the cleaning, the Power Query part actually. And then there are certain things, extraction we have done, transformation and loading. We are into the transformation segment. So Power BI has got this Power Query concept which allows us to do this task. Okay, so different segments are there. So directly we move on to the demo part of it. Now, if you the first thing that we are going to do is actually you identify all the unnecessary columns that we have got over here, which we are not going to use. And the first thing would be to clean up those columns. For example, if you talk from the perspective of, let's say, customers, so you can see that there's a second column which says company name. And if I just go to suppliers also, you will see that the second column is company name. So both of them have company name, which is common. So what you can do is to mark them separately. You can go to suppliers, and then instead of company name, you can mark it as supplier like this. And then you go to customers, and then company name, you make it as customer name. So customer name and supplier name. And then what happens, you just go to customers, and you can see when you go towards the right side, there are columns which are of no use. At least for this particular analysis that we are doing, we don't use all of them. So what you can do is we simply right click on the column which we don't want, and then go to this option which says remove. Now when we go towards the right side, we can see that there are some columns which we thought, okay, that would be a good column to work with, but unfortunately the data is not complete. How do we see that? That's the power of this tool. That's the power of the cleansing capabilities. That's the power of Power Query as of now, as you can see over here. And you see that, okay, though the region column is of good importance, but actually 66% of the data is empty. So we decide not to take it, otherwise we will just see skewed data or skewed insights. So we get rid of this region. We get rid of postal code as well, because nothing we are doing as a postal code, and that too it is not complete. Then we are not doing anything with the phone, so we remove phone, and then definitely not doing anything with the fax number as well, so we remove fax. So in total what we have done is we have removed 5 columns. In case you feel that okay, by mistake we have removed a column, so what you can do, you can select this entire data or the column and you can just remove it from the list, and you press enter and you will see that the fax column or the column which you deleted is back. So all these steps, whatever we are doing or whatever we are progressing with, they are all getting recorded on the right hand side, and this is something like the Excel macros, as you have seen in the past as well with Excel, that okay, all the steps are getting recorded, all the steps are getting actually recorded on the right hand side. So which means that if you're not sure, or if you want to remove one of these steps or something like this, you have an option. You can just click on this cross symbol and it can get updated, or you can just, it is like undo, right? So we do not have any undo or redo button in Power BI, so be specific about that. Now what happens, we go to the products, so now everything is fine, and when we go to the right side of it, you see that there are these 2 columns, this orders and customer graphics, demographics primarily. So this is what I was talking about. So each table is actually connected to other tables because it's a database. Northwind is a database. And this is the reason, this you can see this orders, demographics, they are not actually columns, but they are actually associated tables inside this data. And you can see there are other columns also which can be introduced or which can be gathered from a different table into this table. And then what happens if you talk from the other components as well, so you can get it over here. So these are not direct columns. So now the customers part is done. We go to the products part of it, and you can see that the products is absolutely fine, nothing to be done over here. It's absolutely clean. We go to order details, and there also you see that order details is also absolutely fine, nothing great or nothing else to be done from this particular table also. We go to categories, it is absolutely fine, and then finally we go to suppliers table, and you can see that the same concepts, the same issues that we faced with the customers data is over here as well. So we just right click and we remove the region, postal code not required, phone number not required, fax not required, and we have got an additional column which is home page, that is also not required. So we get rid of all the columns which are not required in this entire journey of the data, and then we just clean them. This is the cleansing part of it. And now the most typical one. We go to the orders table and we see certain components over here. So in certain components, when I say the first part is, apart from other primary keys like order ID, customer ID, employee ID, these are the connected columns that we have got. So the next important thing is the order date. So there will be there will be a certain amount of columns where you will yourself will be able to find out that okay, we don't require the entire data part of it. So for example, if you talk from the order date over here, we can see that the time is same. 12, 12, 12 like this. So definitely there is no use of this 12 in this particular data. So what we can do is we can just click on this small box over here and just click over here, and then out of date and time I can just select the date. The moment I select date, so the time is removed from this particular data and it becomes clean. Same goes with the required date also, and you go to date and go to this ship date and you change it to date. So now something very interesting and important, you will see what is the importance of this column quality. So column quality says for ship date that okay, valid is 97% and empty is 3%. So empty 3% in ship date means something. So it's a very clear indication that actually 3% of the shipments have not been sent or it has not been actualized. So this is the kind of information that we can see from the data cleanup perspective primarily. When we go towards the right side, we see something very interesting. We have ship via and we can see 1, 2, 3. Eventually, in our next sessions, we will see how to map this 1, 2, 3 into, because we cannot just show somebody like a CXO as 1, 2, 3. So ship via means how it is being shipped. For example, just we taking it hypothetically. So 1 means the shipment is done by surface or let's say on road. 2 means water, or 3 means air. This is the mode actually through which this data is being, this shipment is being transported. So we will see how to convert them into text. Then coming on to the next section, which is actually ship address. So similar to our customers or our suppliers, you can see that, okay, in orders also we have something called ship address, which we don't want. So we can just remove these columns as well. Then we have ship region, we remove this. Then we have postal code, we remove. Then we have, so rest all the other things are absolutely fine. Country, ship, city, ship name, and all these things are fine. So we just take a quick look. Customers, absolutely fine. Products, we have done some changes. Order details, nothing was to be done. Categories and suppliers, we have made some required changes in this entire segment. So once this is done, what we do is, as a part of the final wrap up, we just say close and apply. So what will happen is all these changes will now be applied to the original data stage, and now we have got all the columns. We can just have a quick look at whether we have got clean. So now you can see customers table is very clean. So just lean and clean, what we call it, right? And then we go to orders, let's say, and you can see that the date is only date and not time. So time component is not required over here. And then we go to the products, and then we go to the suppliers, and you see whatever is required. So for example, suppliers, we don't need the address. We can actually delete this column from here as well. So we can just say delete, and this column will be deleted from this perspective as well. So we can do all these things while be in the query. Mostly it is done in the ETL part, but yes, to some extent it can be done in the basic, in the main stage as well when we get the data. Our model, we'll just have a final look at the model, and we see that all the components, all the connections are all fine, which means that we have not touched the cardinality and we have not done anything with the data relationships as well. So the cardinality is maintained over here. So that was it from the perspective of this module, where we talked about the cleanup of the data, bringing the data to the main stage. In our next module, we will talk about the advanced table operations, let's say splitting the data, merging the data. We'll take up a small activity in this operations, table operations, and see how this data works. So that's it from this module. Thank you so much. See you on the next one. Thank you.